Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is OK here, and we are watching Polylogarithmique against Colwem, playing some Crazyhouse 960 on pychess.org, which is a spin-off of Lichess, where you can play quite a few variants. If I just open up the list of variants you can play, you can see. Well, I'm not going to delay, I'm going to get straight to the action, but there are variants with standard pieces, variants with fairy pieces, so-called knights and bishops and knights and rooks, and you can even play some shogi variants and shangxi. Well, what we're playing is with standard pieces, Crazyhouse 960, so the initial position is shuffled, and this is part of the Crazyhouse 960 League. We've had 7 editions of the Crazyhouse League, and this is in between the 7th and 8th editions. We have this Crazyhouse 960, and fortunately, this is a slow time control, 9 plus 9, so we've got time to talk. This is actually a board 5 match in the Crazyhouse League. If I show you the team standings, Polylogarithmique is board 5 of Jasugi 99's team, while Colwem is board 5 of Mugwort's team. So Crazyhouse is not just about the big guns going at each other with amazing tactics and amazing opening theory. It's also about these two who are both legends of the game. Colwem is a legend because, hi there, Pethidine, who is fgalla on Lichess. We see a huge attack here. This is dangerous. This is all over. I wanted to comment on this game, but it's all over. Colwem's found a very fast attack. So let's just play through the game from the beginning. I wanted to start slightly late because I didn't want to interfere with the live play, but I was hoping not to start so late that I'd miss the whole thing. So fgalla says, I like bishop takes f6, restricts black's bishop on h8. So this is taking here. It does block in the bishop, but it would also open up the rook, and the bishop could come to g7 and provide safety for the king, maybe. Okay, so interesting. We have a position, a very interesting position, where the bishops are on the corners. And I think Polylogarithmique had a pretty good idea. Develop the bishops first, open up those bishops. I think that's a good idea. Whereas Colwem went for another strategy of opening up the knights. So I think both are valid, and they both control in the center. Notice these are controlling the center here, and these are controlling the center here. So why is this game still going? I'm very confused. I thought the game was over. But we're going to come up to the live action soon. We're a little bit behind. So let's play through. Takes. Okay, so he said, fgalla in the comments said he likes that. I'm not sure about giving up your nice bishop, though. That's the only thing. So I'm not so sure about that. But and also I would have taken this way to open up the rook. So the thing I feel about fgalla's structure, and that's going to bite him, is he's left. Opening up the bishop is a great idea, but he shouldn't have then moved this pawn and created holes in his position. This square in particular, c3, as we see, is going to be really weak. Okay, but what's this queen doing? You're taking your queen out. It's just going to be hit with tempo with moves like bishop here and so on. So, and that's indeed what happens. It's a really nice move by Colwem, grabbing a pawn here. Oh, of course it's not checkmate because king takes pawn. Okay, so that's up to the live action. Blocks him off, throws in the check, but it's not checkmate, but it does win the queen. Okay, so we're up to the live action. But I don't want to be up to the live action. I'm quite happy being a bit behind because I don't want to interfere with with anything live. So let's see who's watching. Myself, GB Tammy, PKR5025, fgalla, a few anonymous, and hi there, Maria Bughouse, with the advertising my website with. That's nice. Thanks a lot. zchess.blogspot.com, which I need updating. So apparently GBTime, if you click on the left right arrow icon first, then pressing the space works. Huh. So then the space doesn't work. Oh, it does work. Oh, that's going backwards. Okay, so just press on this and then go forwards. Oh yeah, spacebar works. Spacebar's a noisy button though. I'm going to go with, hi there, GB Tammy. Oh, we do have a mate in this game. Okay, so it was a little bit more complicated mate, but the point is he won the queen. Okay, so what can we say about this game overall? Now just to say, you can always, at the end of a game, just go to the analysis board and pick up the game and stick it in on Lichess. I think people should know that. I can show you how to do it if you like. You can always also choose dark mode or light mode by, in the top right. That's a useful feature to know. Yeah, so what can I say about this game? I mean, I feel like polylogarithmique played well, but this move... Okay, this square is under control now, but yeah, giving away the bishop was, I think, a mistake, because then you lose control on diagonals, and this square is really weak when you develops the knight like this. So I think giving up the bishop turned out to be a bit of a mistake, and then he's attacking a lot the center, when maybe you need to develop and try and solidify your structure. You know, maybe like putting a knight here and developing this knight. Yeah, so knight here wasn't checkmate. Was there any other move? So knight here is interesting, but then the king can just run away. So what he did actually is quite nice. Did Colwem? He went for the check, hoping for a block here, and then knight here would be checkmate. But Polylog we think is quite smart because he blocked a bit further away, and then he said, okay, I'm just going to go for this queen business. And once you got the queen, yeah, it's all over. There's nowhere that this king could go. So, and this queen coming out here actually did play a role. It cut off the king. Let's go straight to the live action again. So since we followed polylogarithmique first game, let's be consistent and turn it in his direction for the second game as well. And ironically, this is time it's Colwem who's going for the polylogarithmic approach of let's develop my bishops. I think I like it. I think I like it. The two moves that strike me in this position are d5 and g5 or g6 because it's supported by the rook. But then be careful about h6. Oh, now this is a mistake. Yeah, because a mistake from black. Not a huge mistake, just a minor. No, it's completely fine. But notice, white has got an edge here by taking here, takes back, and he can he can control the diagonal again in whichever way he chooses. He could go bishop here or just bishop back here, and in doing so, he's regained control of the diagonal. Oh, sorry, and maybe a good idea for black is to contest it again, but look, if you take back, you can then put a bishop here, pin to the knight. And okay, so white clearly has an edge in this position. How could it have been avoided though? Maybe by playing this first and then this, but that's not so nice. So okay, so white clearly has a small positional edge here. So d5 is played. Now this is very dangerous because it means there's a pin here which white can just go for the throat and play f4. Sure, it opens up the king, but black doesn't really have pieces to harm white at the moment. He could just go f4 and go for this pin. Or indeed he can do what he did in the game, which is say, well, that knight is defending that pawn, I'm going to pick off that knight and then take the pawn. Yeah, this is okay also, but I feel like that actually helps black's development. And okay, you lose a pawn, but black does get some compensation. The only shame is this bishop is a bit trapped. But oh no. So I was thinking here simply pawn at g2. Ah, pawn at h6 though. Pawn at g7. Pawn at g7. Pawn at h6. Yeah, it's not so easy to play. Pawn at g7. Pawn at h6. Maybe here takes. King takes. I think you're just about surviving. But so I think this is the weakness of polylogarithmique is he's going straight for a counterattack when he hasn't really sorted out his own position. So if you watch Dan Lee, I'm not okay. No, it's okay. He had two bishops. He's getting his pieces on the board with tempo, and maybe that takes a knight out of white's hand. So I think that in retrospect, actually, this is quite a nice approach. I just realised I'm not wearing headphones, so I don't have piece sounds. Okay, that's no bad thing. So I don't need headphones because there's actually no sound coming from the pieces for whatever reason. Is there supposed to be sound coming from the pieces? Never mind. So actually, yeah, I think further, and I think actually I quite like what white's done here. Putting a knight here is really cramping up white's position. Polylogarithmique put a bishop here, so somehow I feel polylogarithmique really got the opening. You know, playing the it's not such an opening disaster as I thought it would be. Let's put it that way. A d4, brilliant move. Brilliant move, reinforcing, because you want this whole game. It seems to be a contest over this long diagonal. And PKR says, "Oh, I don't like bishop takes e5. Oh, next move, bishop takes e5. Yeah. So why does he do bishop takes e5? Bishop takes e5, pawn takes, and basically, yeah, white does have a pawn coming in. You can put another pawn, or indeed a bishop, then probably a pawn. Then he picks up a knight, potentially a pawn on f6, and then another pawn on g7. You see, white is making real progress into the dark square. So what's the weakness of polylogarithmique is that he is not defending the color complex. He has a dark color complex, and by exchanging, he's weakening the complex. Whereas if white ever took here, this actually only helps black's development. Put another bishop here, put a bishop here. It's not so bad, and eventually try and get h6 in to stop at h6 ideas. And the queen is supporting this bishop as well as the knight. So in this position, black's got quite good control of the dark color complex. By taking, he's losing control, so the only justification is if a queen is a great attacking piece. Like, if with a bishop and queen you have a wonderful attack going. So let's see how he continued. And he didn't want a queen at all. He's just going straight for a counterattack. Again, this square is really well defended though. Knight, rook, king. It's going to be very hard to get in. fgalla says looks very bad for black, so we're probably looking a few moves ahead. Yeah. And f6 comes indeed. Okay, I'm going to look ahead. F6 takes. Okay, this is interesting. So when you do all these exchanges, polylogarithmique is basically those pieces that you exchange are going to cause you trouble. It's going to be very hard to defend against all those pieces. Let's put it that way. So this is a really critical stage, and we're up to the live. Finally, we're up to the live action. It's going to be incredibly hard to defend if you've just exchanged a bunch of pieces. Having said that, it's only bishops, it's not knights. So there may be some, yeah. So you have to try and think, if you want to defend, it's going to be hard. But if you want to attack, yeah, so the question is there any attack? If you're going to exchange all these pieces, this huge exchange is going to benefit whoever's king is safer. And when you look at this king on f1, there's only one weak square in white's position. In the whole position, there's only one weak square. But whatever move you do, you have to think what the opponent is going to do in response. Whereas now if you look at black's position, this is weak square. It's defended twice by the knight and the king, but it's attacked once. But I wouldn't count the king as a defender sometimes. So I'd say it's equal number of times attacked and defended. So that's sort of a little bit risky. Maybe can I do a yellow? How do I do yellow? Whereas this square is very weak. That square is attacked more times than it's defended. So if I was assessing polylogarithmique's position here, I'd say that's the only possible idea to try and cover your weaknesses, and it might not work. In fact, it just doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because this is weak as well, the square where the king is on, if ever the king can be nudged from the square. Maybe it's a yellow because the rook is defending it. This square here is potentially quite weak. It's attacked once, defended once. So if we see this whole, it is in fact the whole dark color complex around this black king is indefensible. And this does nothing. As PKR 5025 says, this is mate in 2 now. Very simple. What was he thinking? He was thinking maybe knight here check, but then the king slides away. King on g1 is still not mate. So very straightforward win from colwem. And well, it all started with this opening up this bishop diagonal and giving this diagonal to white. It's very important to control your color complexes. If white had control of the color complex, That is in fact how he lost the game. So the way he lost game 1 is a weakness on the dark color complexes, and the way he lost game 2, and the way he lost game 1 is the same. F3 was weak. So we have a real lesson polylogarithmique could learn about making sure he reinforces color complexes. Well, okay, that's it. So if I look at, since I'm here, I could just help them. This is the spreadsheet. There's a calendar. I could help them put in the games, the game results. Oh, I streamed it, so I could say I streamed it. I forgot to say that. So that's game 1. The game result was 2-0 to colwem. And if I just go back, game 2, I take the link, and this is what all players should be doing after their game. So I'm just going to do it for them in this game, putting it in the spreadsheet, in the calendar, and then you don't have to do this, but because I or someone else will do this later, is you can also put it in the spreadsheet here. So colwem's won 2 out of 2 against polylogarithmique. So you type in equals 2 out of 2, and that comes up with a 1. That's good. And polylogarithmique scored 0 out of 2, so it is equal to 0 out of 2, and that comes up with a 0. So with that win, we see that well, Team 12 Teen really does need to get their average up, because their total score is 5.75. But 5.75 is total score, but average score probably matters more once all the matches are completed. 0.38. I'm in Team Plotkin myself, so we're doing quite nicely. 61% average score, but we've played less than half our games, so we need to get our act together. Very nice games from colwem. That is also the first. That might be indeed be the first games of colwem in this season. So he has 4 more matches to arrange in the next 10 days. So good luck to him with the remaining matches. He'll be a tough opponent for sure. And polylogarithmique, important lesson learned from today: defend your color complexes. Okay, signing out. Hope you enjoyed. I see colwem in the chat. Oh, he's saying I might be playing someone else again right now. So if you do, that's great. Go ahead. I might be able to cover it. But I also need to go in about 15-20 minutes. So, okay, excellent. We're seeing a live match now. Another live match. Let's go. Yeah. So while they're playing, they're setting up, let me just say a few more things. I'm going to take these games actually and put them on Lichess. Lichess is the real home of variants, and obviously fgalla and Pethidine can sign off the stream. Of course, I'm sure they've done that already. So if I go into this is there are actually 2 studies of Crazyhouse 960. This is the second study, which is I'm just filling up with the PGNs of all the games. Interesting. Did that not work? Yes. Okay. So sorry, I should be showing you how to do this. So what you do is this follows. So this is game 1. So what you do is you go to the analysis board. You can actually get analysis within PyTest, but it's much nicer personally, I think, to take the game PGN and go to a Lichess study. So just underneath the analysis board in PyTest, you can just copy the PGN, go to a study, create new chapter. This continues here. This is part 2. Go add a new chapter. Click on PGN if it's not already on PGN, and paste the PGN in. It will recognize automatically it's Crazyhouse 960, and it will recognize the players. So that's it. It sets up the game. And now we go to the second game and copy it. and we go to the, oh no, did I do that correctly? You don't copy the link, sorry, I get mixed up. You have to copy the PGN, go into the study, add a new chapter, and paste in the PGN. Okay, so so for example, that second game, colwem was white, we can see probably straight away, oh, it's okay, g6. Yeah, g6, it wasn't the mistake that I thought it might be. And the reason it's not the mistake I thought it might be is because g7 is defended. So puts it back here. Yeah, I mean, so just simply bishop at g7 is fine, because if bishop ever takes, knight takes, you maintain some control. I was a little bit concerned it might not be okay, because bishop takes, knight takes, bishop here, for example. I thought that might be slightly annoying. But it's okay. I mean, if bishop takes, knight, king takes, it's only, white doesn't have enough pieces to really attack. So, so the real mistake comes. Yeah, I mean, this is not takes, takes, takes. Yeah, this is the real mistake. So attacking when you really need to defend. How to defend this position? This is a good question. What was I thinking? I can't remember what I was thinking. Bishop f6 is how he defended. Bishop g7 is another way. It's difficult. Yeah, so I think what he... Yeah, maybe... Actually, I thought this was okay, just using up a knight. Yes, that's it. So this turned out to be a really good move because white wasted his knight. If white had done this, suddenly white's got 2 attacks, and that's why this is such a bad move. But when you see the knight landing on g2, suddenly that was actually quite a smart move from colwem. Because then the knight does this, and so yeah, white's doing fine, and then taking is a disaster because it gives white back control of this diagonal. And basically his king is a little bit less safe. He needs to develop. He needs to even sack at this point, just to get rid of this problem. Okay, so let's go back to the live action. So yeah, great. Check out the study. I'll be adding more lines in the future. Now, let us continue. Let us continue by watching colwem against fgalla. Now, I'm sure that both players are not in my Twitch chat anymore, and I can confirm that they are not. But we have PKR with us, and even someone called Opera in Disguise. Hi there, and GB Tammy, of course, the developer of this website. Hi there all. And PKR says undefended pawns on h2, h7 with bishops pointing at them. So yeah, I don't want to discuss live position too much, even though players are not in the Twitch chat, just for the integrity of the game. And Pethdine, no, actually PKR rather, notes that we have a potential weakness. Weakness I'll mark with a red on h2 and h7. That's a very good observation. Although what you really want on h2 or h7 is a knight. So when I see this position, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be lovely if we could get a knight here? It's quite clear you can't. You'd have to go here, 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 by which time it would be defended. So it's far too long-winded. But that's a nice observation from PKR, that there is a potential weakness here. It's not going to last long, simply a knight coming up. The knight is just naturally going to develop to g3 or g6 and protect the weakness. The other thing I noticed about this position is we're ready for a huge storm through the centre. That's quite important. It's very important to develop the bishops. So you're going to storm the centre. You're going to develop the bishops, and you're going to get your knight. The knights are going to be the most difficult piece to develop because they're the ones closest to the edge of the board. So I'd say before the game even begins, I'm predicting, these moves and gets castled. It just seems it seems like a very nice position. It's just like a position where your bishops are pointing at the king side. This seems like a very pleasant position to play. The knights will be supporting the center. Yeah, this is like, I mean, it's almost like standard chess in that you can develop here very quickly. The bishop's already in a good position to attack the king side, and that's the only problem is the king is perfectly poised to castle king side, but the bishops are perfectly poised to develop, and so h6 is going to be a weakness in future. So that's my assessment of the initial position, and I think knight g3 is correct. But the only reason why it wouldn't be correct is if you think that by playing this you can stop this sort of thing, or if by playing this you can stop this. I don't think you can, because if this, even if black gets in his pawn charge first, we've got no problem developing the rook. So maybe maybe e4 is a good idea. No, so maybe d4. Maybe d4. Maybe d4 is a good idea because it develops 3 pieces at once. So I like d4. But indeed, both players just develop their knights pretty much. But black goes for the development of d4, d4, d5 first. So I think that's right. I think black's got the right idea. Colwem goes for a slightly slower approach. I think that's I say a mistake. I mean, I think you can afford just to go e5 because the long diagonal, there's no bishop on the long diagonal. So I think white's sort of conceded the center a little bit to white here. So a slight quite light white. Oh, but having said that, I just noticed something very dangerous about this move, c3. There's a very dangerous idea. Bishop takes knight, h takes, knight at h7 is checkmate. This is extremely dangerous because it means that bishop takes knight, f takes is forced. And that's not the end of the world because the queen protects f7 and the bishop protects e6. So it's not the end of the world by any means, and in fact it's perfect. The king is going to castle and the rook is going to take the open file. So it's very dangerous. It looks very dangerous, but it's actually completely fine. Black is one move away, simply castling from being completely safe. Hi there, Opera in disguise, but if f takes g6, castles. Exactly. Black got an open f file. Exactly. Yeah, I'm saying the same thing as Opera. It's just there's a delay in the stream, obviously, just natural delay. But black castles first. Yeah, and as Opera said, there wasn't a need to do that. He could have gone straight in with e5. And, well, players are thinking a lot. So players have 9 minutes for all their moves with a 9-second increment. Well, by not playing d5 first, yeah, now it's harder to play e5 in response. And you see, if black had just gone with the e5 move, then after d4 he could even go e4. And really just grab space in the center. Remember, the king is going to castle kingside, almost certainly. And if you have this pawn on e4, black would have a pawn on e4. So I think, yeah, I feel like black missed something there. Oppa says a juicy square on e5. But not much to do with it. I mean, if takes g6, d4. Takes g6, d4, and that's basically what we've seen, and that's true. Now, what the good players are really good at is just recognizing weaknesses in your position. There's nothing immediate for this weakness because, as I said, the light squares are actually quite well defended in black's position. But this is a good knight outpost. Having said that, this is just a gorgeous bishop. So there's no need to swap your gorgeous bishop for a gorgeous knight. Just feels like a waste of time, and it will give black a gorgeous rook. So really no need for it. Now Oppa says, now e5 maybe takes e5 and pawn h6. Yes, exactly. If black goes e5, we just take it and pawn at h6, defended by the bishop. And if you go e6, then you're blocking up your own bishop. So you're going to have to do the same kind of setup of this, and so so it's a slight trick they've both missed from the opening position is recognizing the importance of getting e4 in as well. I mean, of course, there's a risk of being overextended, but having this position with the knights out, and then if ever that pawn is contested, you could push again and have these open files. So I don't know how to go about getting it, but instead we got a symmetric position. And as Oppa says, yeah, the bishop is stronger than the knight. And we're almost up to the live action because, okay, e5 was played by black here. So I wonder if we're going to see the Oppa's idea. Just takes and pawn at h6. So notice g7 isn't protected by anything. What I love to do in Crazyhouse is just mark sort of weak squares into position. It's protected by the king, but let's not count the king when we do this. It's not weak because it's not attacked, but it's not really defended either. And same for this. Whereas these squares are very well defended. Everything here is well defended. And then this square is also weak because it's attacked once and defended once. So those 3 squares there are the potential weaknesses in the position. Because they're attacked and defended an equal number of times, excluding the king as a defender. And what do we see is indeed d takes e5, queen takes e5, and pawn d4. Opposites, black can be pretty solid. Takes h6, pawn at g7. So if at h6, takes h6, bishop takes h6, pawn at g7. Oh, yeah, so that was very interesting. If instead he'd taken with the bishop, then at h6 could be met with takes, put a pawn back on g7, and there's no point the bishop taking that pawn because the bishop takes back, and the bishop is a wonderful defender of the king. You can no longer work along the dark squares. So what we saw in the two games between colwem and polylogarithmique is colwem did a wonderful job of working along a color complex, and so already this pawn here is eyeing f6. If we just do our like a meta-analysis of weak squares in the position, those are the potentially weak squares in the position. They're defended and attacked an equal number of times. Now, bishop takes e5 is a good defense. Queen takes e5 is also decent. You have to be a little careful in Crazyhouse getting out the queen because the queen can be hit with tempo. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it's just sometimes white can sort of develop pieces with tempo hitting that queen. So you have to be a little careful that if you do get the queen out, it must have things to do, places to be. Like it's like making a threat. I can't see any obvious tempo moves. The only tempo move I can see is f4, which feels very weakening indeed. It would really weaken. I mean, not critically weakening. Like d3 is still protected, but it doesn't look like the kind of move you'd want to play in this position. It would weaken this diagonal basically on the king. And the only reason for playing f4 is if you wanted to continue with f5, and I don't know. I feel it would be unnecessary. Be an unnecessary thing to do. So let's get a bit closer to the live action. At d4, so instead of using the pawn at h6, he goes for a very solid approach, just hitting the queen with tempo. So sure, this is controlling the center, this is controlling this square. It's going to be hard to do anything on this square, because black is very well defended on this square, unless you have pawns. Only a pawn on e5 really does anything. And as Oppa says, white isn't so developed yet. The queen just backs off, and reasonable. It's keeping an eye on that f6 square. f6 and h6 are really the problem squares for both sides. And I am looking at black in particular because white does have a slight initiative. So this is a symmetric position, but because white plays first, white does have a slight initiative. What to do actually? I mean, just sort of tactically speaking here as white. I mean, you're saying white's not so developed, but the bishops are out. The king is castled. The queen isn't out, but then the queen is quite a good defender and doesn't need to be out so much. No more pieces in hand. So there is an interesting question, how to improve your position here as white. And I don't see it. So although white has the initiative, it's his move, it's just hard to see how to improve the position. And that's why maybe pawn at d4 is a slight shame, because the pawn could have been some kind of catalyst to try and get something done, maybe like pawn at g5, pawn at h6, but maybe not, I'm not sure. Yes, and as Oppa says, the queen on e7 is more active than the queen on e1, so black has a slight advantage in that sense. Although white has initiative, it's white's move. So what does white do with that initiative? Okay, so he does this move, which doesn't really threaten anything. This is defended, it's just, maybe it's to remaneuver. I mean, this is the only thing it could be, is remaneuver your knight to this e5 square, which is far too slow in Crazyhouse. It'll take a while to get there. But then neither side has much in hand. So what does black do? He chases the knight away. Well, that doesn't really help, because, I mean, maybe developing his own knight would have been a good idea. Chasing the knight away, I mean, maybe he has ideas of moving the bishop to h6 at some point. Okay, I feel like I'm missing a lot of action. So here, at h6, okay, at h3, this is important. So it turns out black gets the attack first. So Oppa says, yeah, sometimes it's risky to invest a pawn from the pocket. I'd say investing pawns from pockets is fine, as long as you should, my rule of thumb, you should always keep one last pawn in hand, just as black's done, one last pawn to start your attack. And black has a slight edge here, because with this, he's got the attack in first. Pawn at g2, very important in this position. I mean, you could think just back off, and it's a slightly drawn position, but no. You sack a piece, and you try and make some progress on this king. knight h4 check. Now this is very dangerous. If white could get a second knight, knight here check, king h1, pawn at g2 is mate. So in that kind of scenario where a knight is potentially mating, even such crazy moves as queen here, for example, they're not good, but they look almost feasible. On the other hand, you have bishop takes knight, just a free knight. Now this is really important. Oh, the game is over. This is terrible. Of course, you have to take with the h-pawn to give your king an escape square. But colwem took with the pawn, and it's game over. This is a really classic mate. 2 knights and a pawn. The knights control the squares on like slightly on one side, and the pawn controls the squares that the knight can't control, which are straightly in front of the knights. Knights aren't very good at straight ahead of them. They don't see the squares straight ahead of them, but they do a wonderful job seeing the squares which are to the side of them. So notice 2 knights together do a wonderful job. Oh, they don't control that one. What am I talking? But they control a lot though. So really important in that final position. I mean, really just to take a few seconds to go h takes, knight here, king h2, and I mean, white is completely fine. He's given luft to his king. The problem with this move is that a knight here covers the escape square, it covers your luft. So although it's quite normal to take with the f-pawn in Crazyhouse to open up the rook, it turned out this is quite a bad mistake in this position. So fgalla takes game 1. Now maybe I can just about cover game 2 before I have to leave. So before I go with that, I think Oppa's got some ideas about this final position. So if takes here, so bishop takes g3. This is still winning for white, because after h takes g3, well, let's just actually put this on a fen on Lichess, and I'll be able to see it much more clearly. So what I'll do is I'll take this game and I'll put it in the study. And I know they've started the next game, but that's okay, because we'll catch it up. It's a 9+9 game. They can't go that far. Yeah. So let's just follow this line. We're thinking if h takes seemed natural. So let's just first see what Oppa was suggesting. He's suggesting at h2, king takes h2, knight at g4, check, and king h3 is the move to do in this position. So king h3, and white's actually doing okay there apparently. King h3, you just go hunting those knights with your king. I'm very confused. So if something like f5, you just take it. If queen e6, king takes h4. I mean, this is insane. Really? So basically, the engine really likes white in this position. However, okay, so the upper line though was if king g1, queen takes pawn, because a pawn mates. Oh yeah, okay. So pawn h2, king h1, and queen takes pawn because a pawn mates. But apparently that's a bit of a problem because it doesn't work. I mean, it does work, but it's complicated. Queen takes rook, queen takes queen, rook at g1, queen takes g1, h takes g1, king takes. Why not just do this? Because the king is just running away, apparently. Ah, okay. But there is something better, amazingly, which is even if this... No, so there's something better is this check here. And white only has diagonals to block with. So then you get your pawn with check. So that's the important thing. So that's the trick. Queen e4. However, even better than at h2 straight away is queen takes e2 first. And that's forcing. If queen takes, too much talking. If queen takes, then knight at f3 and pawn at g2 is mating. So you have to sack giving up the queen. Again, if king here, queen here is mating, so you step up, and then pawn at h3. And the thing about here, this is called the cookie crumb. You draw the king up, and you checkmate it. So he has to take the other way, but you just draw him further and further up. Again, if he comes back, queen here is mate, so you just draw him further and further up. Just draw him up the board. Again, if he goes back, you're mating him actually just straight away like this. And if he tries to run away like this, queen at e4 is checkmate. So the very strong mating move actually in this position. There was a really nice move, queen takes e2, in this position if white had gone h takes, which means that after bishop takes knight, white's best move is actually bishop at h3, just controlling that weak g2 square, and that would frustrate black's attack a bit longer. So, okay, I better go to the live action because I need to go very soon. I don't want to lose the live game. So let's just look at the live game. And we're going to look from the perspective of colwem, because we did look at from colwem's perspective in the first game. See if you can tie the match up at 1-1. So we've got the same position as last time, and we discussed the setup, which I'm expecting. Fgalla goes for that e4, because we saw from the first game e4 is a slightly difficult move to play if black gets in d5. So I guess that makes sense. Interesting. Now that is a really questionable move from black, because we saw how the bishops really naturally gravitate towards the king side, and the g6 square is really important for the knight. So by playing b6 square, by playing b6, this begs the question: where is this knight going? You can develop the bishop to here, but where is this knight going? And if you're not going to develop that knight, you're going to be down a knight the whole game. And if I just go back to the current position, of course, that knight's still there. Okay, so okay, so now let's play through the game. d4, bishop a6. Okay, this is nice. It's an annoying check. I mean, I have to give it to him. This is a darn annoying check. I guess you have to do this, and you have to just say, well, a rook is worth the same as a bishop in this game. Oh, he gives up a pawn. I mean, I wouldn't have done that. There's no reason not to give up the rook. It takes, you actually get a really nice center. But Fgalla gives up a pawn. Oh. And so he's given up a lot of initiative by doing that. He's given up a pawn and initiative. Also, just simply bishop here is fairly nice. But pawn here is nice if you think you can make progress into the position. Oh, ouch. Ouch. I mean, white could have just done this, bishop here and then defended. If bishop takes bishop, queen, oh, I see, it doesn't work, because then another bishop here. Oh, but then rook can always take the bishop. So there was no need for give up a rook for a pawn. You could get the rook for a bishop, I think. Giving up the rook for a pawn. So black has got a huge material edge in this position. Knight g6, of course, developing. So how do I play this position? I mean, black just needs to develop, and he has a huge material edge. Just make sure his king is safe. So colwem should be very happy. Just get his king safe and have a huge material edge. Now, if this, then knight here, king here. Maybe the king's okay on e2. Knight could come back, but interesting. And if you take this way, why not take this way and castle, like we saw in the last game? But okay, he takes this way. Okay, now why not take this way? So the only reason would be if, say, this square was weak. But it's not, it's defended by the bishop. So there's no knight check there, even defended by the queen. So there's no reason not to do f takes. All the squares are defended around white's king, and then he castles. And black doesn't have the long squared bishop pointing at h3, so... But okay, he does this, knight there check, and his king is on the run. And this is brilliant from black. Black is, he's got a material edge. He's basically lost his initiative for a huge material advantage. And the thing to do then is just, solidify, develop, and build up initiative again. Oppa says A1 is mobile. Yep, A8 not yet. So having said that black has a huge material edge, he does have a dud knight. I have to give him that. But it really doesn't matter. I mean, he's got, well, yeah, and no bishop defending light squares. There's some real light square weaknesses. So he does need to solidify. Having said that, white's king is in the center of the board, and black's plan is quite simple. Blow open the center of the board, and that king is just toast. The king has no safe squares. His hope, if I'm white, is to try and get over to the queen side. Because by playing this move h takes, he's really said, I need to get out and go over this way. So let's see how the game developed. Bishop at f5. I mean, this is quite aggressive when you haven't really developed. I mean, is the hope pawn here? But this is just an exchange. A bishop and rook are worth the same, so it doesn't do anything. So bishop here doesn't seem to do anything apart from threatening this, and you can just take this way. So fgalla does this, he just hits, takes. Oh, we're going to get the same. Again, I'm wondering, why not just f takes? There was no reason not to take with the f pawn. But okay, he takes this way, and fgalla is now contemplating. He has a pawn and knight in hand. You can do the same kind of business as black did, and send black's king into the center of the board. So what Oppa says, I feel a bit. I'm gonna wait until fgalla plays until I read what Oppa says. Just because I feel I've gone too close to the live action. Oh, hi there, Crazyhouse ZH. So everyone follow Crazyhouse ZH. He is soon to become a streamer, I hear. So, and I'm gonna just add him myself at the end of the stream. So he's going to be the new Crazyhouse streamer on the block. Okay, so I'm gonna read what Oppa said. He said, defend e4 and attack g6 with knight e6 ideas. So he wants to get the knight on e6 or knight h7 ideas. And Crazyhouse says he's still trying to figure out how to set up OBS and stuff. Yeah, so I sent you some links, a link on Lichess, but I'm not sure if it'll help. I can definitely try and figure out something with you live at some point on voice. I have to go in minus 10 minutes though. That's the only problem. And so I'm hoping that this is terrible, but I'm hoping this game finishes soon, as I'm supposed to be somewhere in 3 minutes. So Oppa was talking about bishop at f5. Bishop f5 is probably a good move. Defending. So if takes with the g pawn maybe. I mean, so we have a really weird situation where both kings are in the center of the board, and whoever. I just don't understand this g3. So what my plan for white was just to get the king over onto the nice safe queen side. Whereas, and then with the king is safe, even though white is down a lot of pieces, he can come back into the game. Now what's actually happened in this game is trades. Trading a pawn, putting a pawn here, and this is a problem. I mean, the bishop has to go here. It's only square. And then the problem is this, takes. And we saw this again against polylogarithmique. If you let colwem control the color complex, you're in trouble. So Oppa was talking about bishop f5 on move 12. So he said he quite liked this bishop at f5. Oh, I see. That's what. So it's defending e4, attacking g6. Okay, is that move he was talking about? Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I do like it. Because I feel colwem played this fairly nicely. Just hit that. Okay. Okay, my king is a little bit annoying on d7, but And the problem also in this position is, see, in this position, white did have an escape to the queen side. In this position, black really doesn't. If he goes over to the king side, queen side, he has no pieces there. He only has that dumb knight. This is weak. This is weak. This is defended, so that's okay. But these two squares, the light squares, are really weak. So black doesn't really want to go over to the queen side. So that's the only slight negative. The only thing I worry about white here is that he's just going to get run over by black just down the center, just with the pieces in hand. His king is in a terrible position, but he might just get run over. Bishop a3 check. Okay, blocks. Takes, or takes back, obviously. Black has got black bishop e3 and the king walk. So Oppa says bishop e3 and the king walk doesn't work because it gives black too much time to attack. Basically, black has got two pieces in hand, so could defend better. White only one pawn. Yeah. So what to do here? As interesting. So in terms of material, black has an edge, no question. But his pieces are... Okay, so this knight actually does have a purpose. It's keeping the king hemmed in. Crazyhouse says, I really like Crazyhouse 960. Lots of scope to play positionally. And it's not easy to get safe. Yeah. Because the thing is, the natural move is bishop h6, but it's met by bishop at g5. There's no control on this... Ah, nice move. I appreciate that from fgalla. He did this move to pick up a bishop. So he's got rid of his dark squared bishop, but he's got a little bit of control on the light squares. Okay, I'm not sure if it works because colwem can just keep on going. Put another bishop, and I shouldn't be talking about live action, but still, colwem can just keep on plugging away on these light squares, and effectively the situation is colwem's got four pieces in hand to plug away with the attack, and fgalla has just got pawns. In that situation, you really need, white really needs to... so colwem just needs time, basically, to get his pieces on the board, and white will be overrun. So I feel like this is game over, actually. Crazyhouse says bishop at g5 check, maybe. But this must be from a while back. It just doesn't do anything. Everything can be blocked, takes. Maybe they're pawn here ideas, that's the problem. Yeah, so king can actually go to d7, maybe get some safety. Bishop at b5 here for bishop at h6. And bishop, I mean, this is just straight, yeah. For here, bishop at e4. Just go straight for the kill. I mean, I need to go, as I said, minus 2 minutes ago, but I don't want to leave this game. On the other hand, this game is over. So colwem simply wins this game by putting pieces along these light squares. Now, having said the game is over, the one thing about Crazyhouse 960 is fortunes can change so fast. Like if white somehow survives the attack and gets some pieces in hand, there's not much hope at the moment. All the squares in black's... the king is stupid on e7, but actually there's no attack. There are no knight checks. There are no bishop checks. Any rook check from here, for example, could be blocked. It's a dire situation for black. The problem with this is you could just put a pawn. I mean, it's not great, but what if this takes, pawn here? So people are suggesting bishop b5. Why bishop b5? I think, yeah, bishop b4 makes sense. So black doesn't need to be aggressive, but he can be. He can even go bishop at b4 here, bishop at e4 here, or he can go straight in for an attack. takes, knight takes pawn, pawn takes, bishop takes pawn, king takes, pawn here. The reason this game is over is just the light squares. This would, yeah, the light squares are too. Oh, he does this. I'm not sure if that works because takes, queen takes, and white puts another bishop here, and then you're forced to back away. And white maintains control of basically this square. The d3 square is the d3 and f3 are the two entry squares. This is another way of doing it. This takes. It's just chasing the bishop back. So this game is going to go on basically, even though this game is going to go on even though white should be lost. Although both sides are running slightly low on time with only 2 minutes left. Yeah, I mean, this is a good defense from white. The only problem is this still works. No, it doesn't. He's lost control of the d5 square, so he no longer has at e4. So white is materially down a lot, but he's regained control of the light squares with that sequence of play. If we just play through that again. So this was fine. It was very important to keep up the pressure with either just taking directly or bishop at e4, keeping up this pressure. By doing this, yeah, white's getting his pawns on the board, and that's all white has is these pawns, just really making progress in the position. And suddenly black is sacking back material. Rook takes pawn, knight takes rook. There better be a continuation, or that's just sacking a material. And you don't want to go pawn here because rook takes pawn back. No, but pawn takes. So you just take the free material, and that's not giving bishop black the knight he wanted. Why did he want a knight? He was just moving the bishop away. This square is defended for the moment by the queen. So notice how the light squares are now so well defended for white. I was just saying, I should just give up this game. Black's just going to pile up the pressure on the light squares. It's just game over. And things have changed. Let's look at the chat. Black is helping white consolidate. Yes, they are. Now, having said that, it's really good to watch. So both these players are about 1600 on Lichess, and yet they are both very quite active players. It is thanks to colwem we have a Team Crazyhouse League, because he helped program the zhteam.lakin.ca site, which we used for the Crazyhouse League. So now, amazingly nice move by this bishop at d1. So you've got a choice. I'm just going to go back to here. You could give up the queen for 2 bishops. That seems like a reasonable thing to do, as long as the queen has no entry squares. Queen could go here, though, is the problem. And the problem is queen takes knight next. So if you just put a rook, it's queen takes knight. That's very uncomfortable. So queen takes bishop. Actually, queen takes bishop is quite appealing, because then we put a bishop later on d6 when we get a chance. So queen takes bishop, bishop takes, rook takes. If ever the queen here checked, just simply knight back. And all he has is pawns and rooks. Rook at check, king takes, pawn. I mean, yeah. So what do we people say? PKO actually thought bishop at d1. Crazyhouse thinks queen takes or king d2 perfectly reasonable. Now, king d2 would be very concerning if there was rook here check and you have to move your king up and so on. But this square is very well defended, actually. So if rook here, we could even just block with a pawn even, because it's so well defended. But time is going to be the issue. So let's get up. King d2. Colwem, with only 15 seconds on the clock, and it was like 6 seconds on the clock, puts the rook down with check. And fgalla defends with the pawn. Pawn takes, king takes pawn. It's not enough. If you added bishop, no, king takes rook. 10 seconds on the clock. And I think this is Colwem's weakness, is... Oh, king takes rook was missed. King takes rook was missed. He went back going for the bishop. Why not just king takes rook? Up until queen takes d1 probably, and bishop t6, bishop c6 ideas. Yes, go for the queen. Knight takes pawn, nice move, but we can just take it. Very important to take it or we lose the queen. and I think losing the queen would be painful. So just take it. It's a wonderful knight for your attack. And remember, we're always eyeing that d6 square. And I'm thinking, king takes bishop. And, oh, then there's rook here. Oh, going up is dangerous. But black's out of material. There's no material left. King takes bishop was interesting. Rook here, knight block. Rook takes knight, king takes, and then the material runs out, and then no knight checks. So that would have been a possibility. Notice rook takes would be dangerous because king takes, and another rook check. But king up, very dangerous position. What piece did he pick up? He picked up a pawn, but there are no pawn checks that mate. Now is there going to be a dangerous counterattack? There is just knight takes bishop, simple defending move. But maybe there's something better. Bishop there check looks dangerous, but there's no bishop. Maybe take the bishop first and then attack. Or just pawn here check is also interesting. But that knight is... Notice it's still stuck on Diana a8, but it is doing a defensive job because it's protecting the c7 square. c7, just like we saw c2, is very important defensive square for both players. This square is open, but you can always block on c2, and so it's nothing. This bishop also providing great light square coverage for black's position. fgalla in the think. Crazy, I'm thinking white's doing okay. King e3 is a solid square, says Oppa. I'm really surprised, but you're right. There's no pawn check. And even the knight checks are defended. Maybe this is a potential weakness. You've got to watch out for the knight here check at some point, and that king would get mated. So you don't really want to lose a knight, that's the only problem. So can you afford to take this bishop? Knight takes bishop, bishop takes, and then counterattack. Bishop here, king here, rook here, queen takes, pawn takes, and you hope you don't get mated. If bishop takes, you could even go king takes, and then just hide away. And suddenly, it's white who has all the material. I was just writing this game off as a win for black, and really it just was a simple win, just piling in on the light squares. As long as you don't get mated, that would be fine. And the idea is just to go this, if queen takes, bishop takes with a rook. Is white mated with a rook and a knight? Oh, interesting. Interesting, I missed that move. Very nice move, a very nice move. So king has to go here, and then rook here's... Oh my goodness! Well played! I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but well played! Well played! Well played, fgalla. Amazing mate he just found. I completely missed it. Let's see if the chat saw it. At d6 and knight at f6. Of course, Crazyhouse saw it if black goes to d7, so king d8 is forced. No material in hand, so even takes f3 and white is winning. Yeah, even if you're just grabbing the material, white is winning. Oh my goodness. I was just on the point of leaving this game and saying this is game over for white. But hats off to fgalla, amazing win. Since we're here, I'm going to very quickly put that in on the analysis. How do I do that? I'm going to maybe refresh the game, and so when you refresh it, it will be the PGN will be available. I'm going to paste that in. Unfortunately, I have to rush off to dinner, but it has been a real pleasure to cover these two games. Two matches, colwem against polylogarithmique and colwem against fgalla. Colwem was stunning against polylogarithmique, really worked away on the light and dark squares. Against fgalla, I think fgalla has maybe slightly greater experience at the game, slightly more games under his belt. I think that showed a wonderful comeback in that second game, that king on e3. It looked very precarious, but as Oppa said, it was safer than it looked. Okay. Thanks so much for letting me cover your games and for entertaining and for chatting in the Twitch chat. I'm sorry I have to run, but yeah, thanks so much for all of you guys for joining me in the chat and also giving your move suggestions and so on. Pestine says good games, and Jimmy Tummy gives his congratulations. Nicely played both, says Crazy Home. And this is OK signing out. It's been a joy.